Hi, I'm going to say thank you again to a viewer who sent me. I received an envelope today, and inside it was a newspaper cutting, and the headline on the newspaper cutting was "Opinion: BBC now a threat to all local newspapers." So I thought, well, I'll go and see if I can find that online. And I just did a search on this particular search engine, but other search engines do exist, and I encourage the use of alternatives. But let's just scroll down through this a little bit and see how widely this was published. And you can see these are all, each line of this is individual local news organizations around the country, ending there with the Shropshire Star at the bottom. So this is the headline: BBC now a threat to all local newspapers. So let's just choose one of them. This is the Eastern Daily Press. And let's look at a little bit of the text of this, because what they're basically saying is that in October 2022, the BBC had made plans to what they described as strengthen local online news. Now, this is local BBC online news provision. And the local newspapers are basically complaining because the BBC is funded by the taxpayer effectively. And therefore, if it encroaches on the markets of these local newspapers, being commercial organizations, they have to try to compete with the BBC through selling advertising, whereas the BBC just gets this massive bung from the UK government, and they're complaining that this is anti-competitive and so on. Well, the problem is, I would accept this argument from local news if they weren't accepting money from the BBC for these, which are local democracy reporters. So the BBC is providing local democracy. We've reported on this many, many times, but the BBC is providing local and funding local democracy reporting service to these local news outlets for them to benefit. So let's just have a look. What is the LDRS? The Local Democracy Reporting Service is a public service news agency funded by the BBC, provided by the local news sector and used by qualifying partners. So if you're a local news outlet and you're a qualifying partner, you can get money from the BBC to fund your journalists. And they say it's like a franchise. Now, this I think is the main danger with respect to local news, not the fact that the BBC is competing commercially. So if we just put that back for a second, it says it's like a franchise, different companies with different approaches, but using common editorial standards and all publishing into the same system. And those common editorial standards, of course, are the BBC's editorial standards, and the system that they're publishing into is the BBC's system. So that, to me, is the danger to local reporting, not so much the BBC encroaching into local news spaces. And if the local newspapers are worried about the competition from the BBC, maybe they should consider just doing a better job. And frankly, that's not too hard. But anyway, let's move on.